lovely to be here. Thank you for having me. I'm going to fiddle around here and make sure that we're able to present everything, and then we'll kick off. Yeah, that's a good idea. All right. Let's see. All right. Firstly, to Chair Donal and to everybody here, members of Westport Tourism Organisation and friends, thank you so much for having me. It's absolutely lovely to be here with you in Westport. I've just come from Westport House. I see Biddy in front of me, but I've just come from Westport House, and when the lovely tour guide Catherine was walking us around, she mentioned the first stage of Westport House being open to visitors and the ball pit that they used to have in the basement, and I was able to proudly say I was in that ball pit many times, you know, but a few years ago, and it's lovely to see all of the development at Westport House between Fáilte Ireland and, you know, the Hughes family and everybody involved, and actually generally the development in this area as you thrive through welcoming visitors. So thank you to everybody here for all you do to welcome those visitors, and I thought I'd talk today a little bit about what we do at Tourism Ireland to try and keep that flow of tourism value coming through to you all here. But I should probably start by introducing myself. I'm Alice Mansergh, CEO at Tourism Ireland as of about 9 months ago. Before that, I was in marketing leadership roles at Google around the world for 19 years, and I was 5 years on the board of Fáilte Ireland. So it's lovely to be part of this proud industry now with everybody here. If we talk for a minute about what Tourism Ireland does, we were set up in the wake of the Good Friday Agreement, and our role is to market the island of Ireland overseas, inclusive of Northern Ireland, in order to grow the value of tourism coming in. And the insight behind it really is that if you're hundreds or thousands of miles away and you're thinking through where to go on your holidays, you're probably not thinking about where the border lies. You're thinking about what there is to see and do on the island. And so that's where the sense comes in of marketing the whole island together to benefit economies and communities right the way around our island. How we fit in with Fáilte Ireland and Tourism Northern Ireland is a common question, so I wanted to cover that. Fáilte Ireland do great work, as do Tourism Northern Ireland, supporting development and domestic marketing on the ground, and then we are the whole overseas marketing piece. And so if we talk just for a minute about the importance of overseas tourism, well, overseas tourism is worth €6 billion per annum to the economy across the island. And it is back in that region over and above where it was in 2019, although of course a portion of that is inflation related. If you take the impact of domestic and overseas tourism together across the industry, we're supporting over 300,000 jobs. And one of the things I love about tourism is that those jobs aren't just in cities, they're not just in Dublin or Belfast. 70% of the jobs in tourism are outside of those cities. And I think you all role model all of the entrepreneurialism and all of the passion and drive that there is across regions to thrive through tourism. So thank you to everybody here, because everything you do to develop the destination makes it a joy and a pleasure for us to then tell the story overseas. I thought I might just touch on where we're at in the tourism industry, both highlights and then some challenges. So highlights: for a little island in the Atlantic, we do have really strong awareness. Over 67% of our target audiences are aware of the island of Ireland as a holiday destination. We are seeing year-on-year recovery. So last year, the majority of tourism businesses said they saw an increase in overseas tourists. About half are expecting to see an increase in overseas tourism again this year. And as we said, from a revenue point of view, we are over and above where we would have been pre-COVID, albeit with some of that inflation. Hotel occupancy, again, above and beyond where it was pre-COVID, although as we all know, the shape of what accommodation we have available to tourism has changed a little bit along the way. And then air access couldn't be more important. 90% of our visitors arrive here via air, and air access actually has again recovered to pre-COVID levels, and we're one of only 2 Northern European countries where that is the case. and we've actually gained some share in terms of air access from other Northern European countries. So lots to be proud of there. Coming into this summer, we'll be 5% ahead of where we were in 2023 in terms of air access. And for a key market like the US, we'll actually be 14% up on where we were last summer. So whilst there are challenges ahead in growing air access further, and we'll again talk about that in a moment, we should be really proud of how we're getting people onto the island, recovering after the pandemic. And we have an award-winning destination on our hands, which is always something to be proud of. Just to take a couple of examples, Wanderlust magazine named Ireland as its best island destination in Europe for this year. The Wild Atlantic Way and Belfast were on National Geographic Traveller's Cool List. And the accolades go on, and I'll bet there are a ton of prizes that we could call out for businesses in this room as well. So we have a product to be proud of. If we flip on to the challenges, there certainly are some challenges too. So when we survey our overseas consumers or audiences, cost of living is on their minds. 41% of overseas consumers are planning to take fewer short trips this year in order to save for their big holiday. So if you think about that, 41% of people taking fewer short trips, it becomes really important that Ireland is high up the wish list, that we're somewhere you would prioritise as being a bucket list destination, and that's what we hope to achieve with our marketing. Talking to industry on the ground, there's lots of concerns about competitiveness, with businesses also coping with increased costs along the way. We've got global uncertainties, heartbreaking conflicts around the world, and that can spill over into weariness of travel at times. We're not seeing that yet, but it's one to keep an eye on. And then finally, capacity. So as is well documented, about 20% of hotel and guest room accommodation is out of use by tourism for humanitarian reasons, and that's between registered and unregistered accommodation. And we're also thinking about air capacity, because while we have grown our access over the last few years, at the same time we all know that there is a cap at Dublin Airport, and for Ireland, 85% of our air visitors come in through Dublin Airport, so that really is a constraint for the future unless that cap can be reviewed, even with all of our efforts to grow access into the regional airports, which is the other part of that opportunity. So keeping all of those challenges in mind, what will we be doing at Tourism Ireland to support all of you? Our vision is to increase the value of overseas tourism to the island of Ireland, sustainably supporting economies, communities and the environment. And we'll do that by inspiring visitors and strengthening our partnerships, always with a values-led approach. So if we go through some of those pieces. First up, in terms of revenue value, we're targeting 5.6% year-over-year revenue growth each year out to 2030 on average. We mentioned inspiring visitors, so we run advertising and publicity campaigns overseas to encourage people not just to be aware of our island, but to actually consider coming and to book their trip. And so across every stage of that consumer journey, we've got activities running across 14 markets and more to get people to come to us. And that could be advertising campaigns, publicity, where we would target creating over 1 billion opportunities to see what the island offers over the course of a year, right through to when somebody's researching, which is increasingly important because actually 80% of consumers now will research online before they book a trip. And so we have an opportunity there to take people who are researching from being interested in bucket list destinations right through to discovering all of the hidden gems that there are in places like Westport or in Mayo. The purchase happens with our partners, so the commercial transaction is always going to happen with the airline, with the hotel, with the attraction, and that's where our partnerships come in. And then when people have visited, the journey isn't over. We want people to follow us on social and become advocates and spread word of mouth. So we have 6 million followers on our social accounts across the different markets, and that allows us to post content and talk to people daily. And when our social followers interact with us, that amplifies out 100 times to all of their followers and their own circles. So we're going to do a brave experiment now and see, can we play a video? And this is an example of the campaign that's live currently. Let's see if it will play. Oh, sorry, I think I'm blocking the screen. Let's just see if the sound works here.
To me, Irish people are the funniest in the world. They're just so hard.
Oh, this looks amazing. I just love anything that comes with its own home.
Everyone's a comedian. Like nuts and greens.
What do you think I am? Juggler?
Stunning. Inspirational. Would you look at the brush strokes on it?
I think the reason I see comedy in everything is because I was surrounded by it growing up.
You wouldn't know where I'm from.
Why
not? Do you know what? There's only one word for that. Absolutely cracker.
Hi, how are you?
In Ireland, one of the greatest compliments you can give someone is to describe them as a character.
Irish boss? Come to me, okay?
Come on, Snowco! Come on! You wouldn't run all out to yourself!
Because as every writer knows, it's the characters you remember long after you've forgotten the story.
Fill your heart with Ireland. Discover more at ireland.com.
Right. Thank you. And that features a couple of the Emmy Award-winning Derry girls and Sharon Horgan, who, of course, has made a real name for herself and for Irish culture through her comedies. Okay, so it's about growing tourism. We talked earlier about capacity and hotel capacity, and actually, if you look at the figures from last year, hotels are typically at about 88% occupancy in the summer months, but only 73% occupancy if you go from October through to May. So when we're thinking about growing tourism revenue, there's a huge opportunity to encourage visitors to discover the island of Ireland outside of peak season in spring or in autumn. And this year we saw great pickup on our publicity campaigns around St. Bridget's Day, our matron saint, if you will. And then St. Patrick's Day has long been a big moment in the calendar. And so this year we made the festival the hero. We had TV presenters on the ground with us, live streaming to cable TV across the US and elsewhere from the parades and festivities. And we reached 180 million people through streaming of the festivals. Then we brought the action to the streets of cities across Europe through Irish dancing and Irish music. And you can see two Great Britain-based presenters there, Dermot O'Leary and Laura Whitmore, for whom we created custom knitwear telling the story of their own connections with Ireland. And both of them wore those jumpers on their TV shows and talked through what each line meant to them and what the connection was. So all in all, we had a publicity reach of 230 million people over St. Patrick's Week. And that's important because it really is a time where we invite everybody around the world to feel a little bit Irish. And you can see that actually in the online data, because there's up to 4 times as many people researching Ireland in St. Patrick's Week as there is on average during the spring. So it's a really key time. If we flip to the other end of the year, we think there's huge potential in Halloween as a second landmark festival for Ireland. And the consumer insight here is, in America, Halloween is actually more celebrated than St. Patrick's Day is, but not everybody knows that it originated here on our island in Celtic culture 2,000 years ago. So there's a real opportunity to tell the story of Halloween, to give it that authentic heritage feel, and to reclaim it, if you will. So we'll have a campaign called Home of Halloween, running across 14 markets for the autumn season. And we're working closely with Fáilte Ireland and Tourism Northern Ireland. Derry Halloween, for example, is the largest Halloween festival of its type. That's already up and running. Fáilte Ireland are supporting Samhain parades and the Puka Festival in Meath. But really, it's an invitation to everybody here to be part of this. We all own Halloween, so have a think about how would you bring that Celtic 2,000-year-old heritage feel to Halloween in Westport or in Mayo, so that anywhere we bring visitors in the autumn months, they're getting a feeling for why Ireland is special at this time of year. And then, you know, alongside spreading interest across seasons, spreading interest across regions is vitally important too. And it never gets old celebrating 10 years of the Wild Atlantic Way. I'm loving that anniversary this year. And big shout out to everybody here who was involved. Fáilte Ireland came up with the concept 10 years ago, but it was all of the work with county councils and with local businesses that I think really made Wild Atlantic Way come to life. And then our role in Tourism Ireland was to make the route famous overseas. And you can see the hard work that we did on screen tourism here. So remembering back to Luke Skywalker on the Skelligs, or normal people on Street Strand, or of course Colin Farrell and his donkey on Achill, and all of the good that did. What we tend to do in these scenarios is film behind the scenes, and then gain publicity from that. And so Irish Wish, for example, in Westport, you can see there, and already the publicity that we've done on behind the scenes, what were the locations in Irish Wish, why should you visit there, have achieved over 20 million in reach this year alone. We will sometimes actually co-produce long-form TV shows also to publicise what there is on offer across the island. And so for the Wild Atlantic Way, we've co-produced 22 long-form TV series to showcase what the route offers. And I'm going to show you a clip from a series on Channel 4 last year in a moment. If you added up all of the broadcast publicity and then all of the publicity that comes from bringing journalists from the New York Times, the Guardian, the Telegraph, etc., all out and about on the ground here, over the past 10 years, the publicity that we've achieved, if you were to try and buy it as advertising, would have cost €1 billion. So it's called equivalent advertising value. We've achieved publicity reach for the Wild Atlantic Way that would have cost in equivalent advertising value €1 billion. So you can see the power of earned media to be able to promote those stories and promote the route simply through ideas and through stories. So let's have a look at Julia Bradbury on Channel 4 on the Wild Atlantic Way.
It may be a small island in the Atlantic Ocean, but Ireland has captured the imagination of the world.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
Here's Slanger. I defy anybody to come to a location like this and not just to smile. How am I going to take this cake with me? That's what I want to know. I turned back. You look amazing. The magic never stops in here. I'm not going to leave. So come with me as I explore this enchanting country.
All right. So let's talk about partnerships, because again, you know, we've a proud job to do at Tourism Ireland, telling the story of all that we are overseas. But actually, we're not flying the plane, we're not manning hotel front desk, we're not the person running the tours. So our partnerships with industry leaders like all of you are vitally important. One key piece that I think is only going to become more important over coming years is our air and sea access partnerships. So we will work with airports and airlines and help market routes that can come into regional airports. So you can see some of the advertising there with partners focusing on Shannon or Knock or Cork in order to bring people straight into the Wild Atlantic Way. And there are actually studies that show of the visitors coming into Dublin, 38% of them are headed for the west and for the Wild Atlantic Way. So as much as we can, knowing that there's a cap at Dublin, where there are routes that are viable, not every route is viable from a regional airport, but where the route is viable, we love to help market those routes, stimulate the demand and bring people straight in to the regions. Another example would be putting local businesses on the global stage, because nobody sells Ireland like the local tour guides, the local businesses who are rooted in all of our most magical geographies. And so we would run events worldwide, think about World Travel Market, for example, or IMEX, or even our own bespoke events. The idea behind these are to bring local business owners who have a saleable attraction or accommodation, and put those business owners in touch with the global tour operators who can bring in visitors at scale. And all in all, each year we will host or facilitate about 25,000 of those commercial meetings. We talked a little bit about how tourism sustains economies and jobs, but we do have another sustainability brief as well, which is environmental sustainability. And so we're very excited this year to be teaming up with Fáilte Ireland and Tourism Northern Ireland to launch an all-island assurance scheme. And what this will be a badging system, if you will, that if you're a tourism business and you've made great strides in sustainability, whether you're using renewable energy, whether you are regenerating on your grounds, whatever those steps are, that you would have a recognisable badge of honour that showcases that you're focusing on your green credentials and sustainability. And then as Fáilte Ireland and Tourism Northern Ireland roll that out on the ground, at Tourism Ireland we'll be able to promote that overseas, whether through our events or through our marketing. And I think there are lots of proud stories actually about sustainability. If you take the fleet of boats on the Shannon, for example, who switched to vegetable oil based fuel, they've cut their carbon emissions by 90% by doing that. And so it's exciting to be able to tell those stories. And caring for the environment is both a responsibility, but it's also an opportunity. In a recent study that we ran, for the first time, 50% of overseas consumers said they would be willing to pay more for sustainable experiences. Now, there's always a slight gap between what people say in surveys and what their behaviour actually demonstrates as to what they do, but it is interesting to see that for the first time, 50% of people are saying, yes, I would pay more for sustainable experiences because I care about that. And I think Ireland lends itself to getting people out and about, enjoying slow tourism, whether it's on the magnificent greenways that we have, whether it's kayaking, spending time in local communities, enjoying the traditional music and so on. So there's progress to be made, but there's also proud stories to be told. Right, how you can work with us at Tourism Ireland. So that's kind of a small font there, but tourismireland.com/opportunities tells you everything you need to know, and I would class it into three main buckets. As I said, we have social channels where we're posting content to encourage people to come to Ireland every single day. So if you have beautiful photography or amazing stories to tell, you can share that content with us and help us post it out to the world. You can also join webinars or EZs to get insights about overseas markets. And then, as I said, we also love to bring local businesses with us to overseas events so that you can start forging those commercial relationships with tour operators or group travel providers. And there's lovely Westport House as well. So I thought we talked about the Wild Atlantic Way and the 10-year anniversary. What better way to end than playing a little video that we're running across 14 markets at the moment to promote the Wild Atlantic Way. So let's see, can we play this?
Being a photographer, you can't help but fall in love with the Wild Atlantic Way. Every second, there's a moment worth capturing. But if the people I've met taught me anything, it's that some moments aren't made to be captured, but lived in. And now I know what they mean.
Fill your heart with Ireland. Discover more at ireland.com.
All right. Thank you so much, everybody, for your attention. And that's it. And I'm very happy to take any comments or questions. Let's finish.